Starting a Minecraft world is easy. All you need to do is open single player, click create new world, and then start, and you're in. We all know how to get through the first night, get a little house set up, going through the process of getting fully geared up, ready to tackle what's next. But that's where it gets difficult. What is next? The question Minecraft no longer answers for you, and the sandbox game genre takes over, and a lot of players get stuck in the powdered snow and just freeze. If this sounds familiar, here are over 126 new build ideas for your Minecraft world with the new Minecraft 26.1 release. Let's start simple here with my starter house. To make it more unique, I added an attached tower for my enchanting setup to live inside, which required a lot of leather to build. So why not also make an animal barn to keep your animals in one spot? Then as you continue upgrading through the game, instead of a smithing table in the corner, create a blacksmith for upgrading to netherite. By now, hopefully you've found a steed to speed across the lands, so give them a home and a stable. Once you're upgraded, it's good to build up some auto farms, which I personally think honeycomb is insanely important, so give some bees a greenhouse to live in. And to go along with the same farm idea, build another barn, this time for sheep to get an auto wool farm going. I also think villagers are pretty important, especially for early game food, so maybe some small farms for villagers to work in for you. If you like doing technical stuff, consider finding some spawners underground and set up a farm for them, like this triple spider spawner I have here. Not all builds need to be insanely important, so you could attempt a vineyard for some sweet berries. With the digging you've been doing setting up those farms, put that extra cobblestone to use and start your castle project. Inside of mine, I built a map room to track the progress as I play in this world long term. But now the original shears you set up in the bee and sheep farms are probably broken, so it's time for an iron farm. Go get one set up as you've really entered the mid game. One of my favorite blocks recently is mushroom stem. So I set up an entire lumber mill themed around mushrooms to gather up as much as I can. This has been a lot of craft, so let's balance with some mine. River biomes tend to dry out in recent updates because the land is so tall, so dig out a channel to connect a river to an ocean so you can explore more easily. If you don't want a boat, maybe you want to walk, and Minecraft forests, to be honest, suck to walk through. Why not clear a path through the forest and make a road to connect up all of your builds? If I see a Minecraft village along the way, I always take the long route through the village, which gives a new project idea of redesigning the village, which I live to pick one or two villager professions and set up a ton of them for trading later to keep me coming back. Maybe you like to go fast and be super efficient instead, so build a huge villager trading hall to house everything you need. Back to chiller farming, go exploring, find yourself some sniffer eggs and set up a ranch for them. You can even run a minecart track underneath to pick up all of the plants. If you love mob collecting, grab all of the cats and give them a fish market they can hang around in waiting for a snack. And you probably need lumber for new builds, so chop down a vanilla forest and replace it with custom trees to make it easier to walk through and just looks better. If you find a pillager outpost nearby, you probably want bad omen for raids, so why not make it something more interesting to come back to for epic battles fighting pillagers by transforming the outpost into something. At this point, you've probably been in your starter region for a while. If you find yourself getting bored, it's time for a holiday. Start a new base in a new biome. This is a great opportunity to expand your road here to link it together. Pick a totally different theme like the desert, so you can build an outpost to swap your horse for a camel. I love playing into a theme, so I'm going for a lush river basin here with life along the rivers to contrast the dry desert, equipped with small windmills pulling water out of the river into the farmland nearby, where I also transformed a village going for a bright, colorful palette to really stand out against the sand, including a camel ranch that I absolutely do not recommend including cactus inside. Terrible, terrible mistake. I can't even begin to talk about it. So instead, to get over it, build a bridge, it being the river. Why would you think there's anything else to get over? If your desert is along the coast, maybe transform the edge into some salt flats for a unique view. In my lore, villagers use the river for everything, so I built a small shipyard for villagers to make boats to explore with, which will need a harbor to house the completed boats that likely should have some dockside storage in close proximity and a nearby market for villagers to sell their extra fresh fish at, which obviously needs palm trees to get out of the dry desert heat while still sticking with the vibe. Maybe you're someone who loves the grind, so how about you go for a blue axolotl? And when you get one, build a home for them to live in safely with plenty of water. Of course, the power of the rare blue axolotl causes people to flock to the region, so you need to add houses and shops. like this library, which houses a massive sugarcane farm inside for all of the paper you could ever need, which fits great next to this huge library that is full of librarian villagers to trade with. Every single one of these dudes has the glass strait unlocked, so this is great for saving some sand. And there's fish. Don't drop your books. I really love building markets, so you can include a big grand bazaar to play into the theme even more. It's just closed today. Yeah, that's it. It's closed today. Mesa biomes are rare and provide the secret of only spawning grass when you bone meal on grass blocks, making them the ultimate seed farming location, which I hid inside of this monument. Back in the city, I almost forgot this mosaic fountain using glazed terracotta, giving a really cool fancy element, and a custom acacia tree using tuff, which I really love. Headed back along the road towards home after a good break, we can stop at a village along the way we put the road through and turn it into a Mediterranean coastal town. And try changing out the stone for something like terracotta and granite for a super unique feel. Something more Tuscan inspired, you can go for this really cool aged block palette for a home. Or even give reference to an even older society with a ruined gatehouse of your road that just isn't used anymore. Maybe hidden in the forest, you settle down with a small hamlet to dig an iron mine, showing a realistic spot where iron can come from. Mines need animals to pull carts around, so maybe it's time for a donkey ranch to get the fastest possible donkey in the game. I'm not quite there, but look how fast this donk is. He's so quick. Oh my god, that wasn't even my fastest one. This guy's even faster. Whee! I love using foliage and colors, so flower farms and a flower forest biome are fantastic to supply everything you need. If you build a massive farm, hide it inside of something crazy, like an obelisk with a beacon out the top so you'll never lose it. Let's be honest, we've all lost a farm at least once, and it's pretty rough every time it happens. Using only in-game builds for inspiration is a great way to get started, but it's not the best way to actually improve as a builder. Sometimes you need to find outside sources of inspiration, which is where today's sponsor, Where Winds Meet, comes in to help. Where Winds Meet is an open-world action RPG that has reached 250,000 concurrent players on Steam. This may feel a little new to you, but don't worry, there is an entire building system in-game. You can gather materials, draft your own blueprints, and build anything from traditional Chinese courtyards to complex bases and even theme parks. You can settle down anywhere you want in the world and build your own dream house to make Where Winds Meet really feel like home in a bowl, or build your house directly onto a steep mountain cliff. Someone even recreated Hogwarts as their base, creating their own wizarding world. If you're looking for a new adventure, you can experience the new Hexy Super expansion available right now, a massive free content update full of high quality content. Featuring 3 large-scale maps, desert, grassland, and snow mountains. Your adventure begins at the Jade Gate Pass in the desert, leading up to the April 2nd arrival of Langzhou in the Snowlands. Through iconic landmarks like Wine Springs and Jade Pools, Langzhou creates a brand new poetic world for players to explore. Truly everything is possible in Where Winds Meet, and the best part, it's completely free, so don't wait, go find some inspiration for your latest creations and settle down in Where Winds Meet. Click the link in the description to get started and begin your journey. I'll get back to more overworld build ideas, but there are 3 dimensions in the game. Even if one is clearly the best, we should at least talk about the other 2. Okay, but first you need a cool nether portal to go into the nether, so you might as well make a project out of it, like this corrupted cave. I mostly use my nether for technical farms, like this wither skeleton farm, which is an amazing source of bones and coal. These are more difficult now, but if you want to grief your friends with end crystals, make a gas farm and you're ready to go. Or to feed the world, create a hoglin farm and no one will starve ever again. Next up, we have magma cubes. You can smush into cream or feed them to frogs and get lights. Something that has helped me a lot recently is this big bartering farm to get all of the piglin drops. But that requires a gold farm to fuel it, otherwise it's not worth too much, so I highly recommend a gold farm as a follow-up project. Also, decorating your nether portals on the nether side can help you know where you're going instead of trying to remember it all. If you hate gas blowing up your builds, maybe consider a localized mob switch to disable mobs just inside of your build area. Give it some lore for why it exists, like my giant tree shielding the area. Speaking of which, for the casual gamers out there, create a nether base, maybe like a cyberpunk city or just something small as a way to link all of your portals together and feel more immersed in your builds instead of just running through netherrack tunnels. On Java Edition, you can also jump to the Nether roof and build for super quick transportation. With blue ice boat roads, you can break the sound barrier in a speedboat. Once you're bored with the Nether, it's time for the end, where you and I should also transform the stronghold. It's still on my project list too, as I got carried away in the end and got distracted with terraforming and transforming the main end island into a tree. Kill the dragon 20 times to unlock all of the gateways, and you have an opportunity to make something very, very cool out here, like a huge glass storm to look like a nebula or something underneath your floating build in the void. Mostly so you don't fall off your little bridges directly into the void. Very important. Speaking of floating, I like the fantastical element of adding floating rocks in the end, which I put the Minecraft enchanting language on to spell out my name. Another great thing in the end would be a skulk farm. The block is great to build with, but can be a pain to gather, so turn Enderman pain into profit. Or go about building a shulker farm so you can have as many shulker boxes as you need in your world. Okay, I want to show some technical footage of a shulker farm here, but I've actually never built one, so this is as good as we can get. But like, maybe don't build one, otherwise you'll never need to go to the outer end islands till we get an end update, you know? I'm recording this right before Minecraft Live, so hopefully we get a really, really cool end update announced. That'd be great. I'll happily be wrong on this. Ignore my temporary wither rose farm. It's gross. That's enough technical stuff. Once you have all these blocks, put them to use. For me, I chose to build a huge city, which I recommend starting with a city gatehouse and a wall to give you the maximum size of your project, at least at one size, and then break it into smaller parts from there. For each building you make, give it a purpose. I found a list on Reddit of a few hundred medieval professions and just started randomly picking some of those, like this wagon storage building. Wagons are likely pulled by horses or mules, so a city stable large enough to store a ton of mounts is also needed. The people also need to eat, and the goods brought in by the wagons need to be sold somewhere, so a grocery store is needed. And people need to wear clothes, at least in the society that I'm building, so we have a tailor shop next door. All of those travelers need a spot to stay and eat, so we have a tavern and inn for them near the main gate. Cities also need someone to help steer the ship, so I added a large town hall building as a form of government. Especially when we have some wacky people living in here, like this herbalist who turned their house into a plant pretty much, and their neighbor who puts up with them running the apothecary. Around the corner, I love to have my storage room scattered throughout the world, so I am constantly revisiting places that I have built up, like this color cathedral here I store all of my candles, dyes, stained glass, and concretes inside of. Cities also need open space for people to enjoy, so consider building a small park for some nature. Or go full industrial mode and build some factories, like this stained glass factory set up with an autocrafter for any type of glass. I think having some city watch of sorts also makes sense, so I have a few guard barracks scattered around the space, but I really prioritize showing off other elements, like this huge university themed around plants, as a palace that was turned into a school that I love so much. Building a university instead of a castle as a huge structure was super fun. Settled down on the cliffs above a massive lake, I dug into the ground to have some open blue space to balance the big crazy city. On the outskirts, after Minecraft added the new cows, I built a woolly cow ranch, which was really fun, and I definitely plan to do this for all of the new animal types. You can even build a custom waterfall to help give the idea of water actually naturally flowing in Minecraft instead of just being static sources. Walking into the lower city, I built a market up right outside the gates, so people may want to avoid a fee or something to bring their goods inside, so they just set up here instead. Which on the far side of the river has a very ruined shrine of sorts under a giant oak tree with branches reaching out, blocking out the sky, showing this as a really incredibly old tree. Outside of the city, I also set up a small town, but my favorite part is this community garden on the southern edge, showing the people are all maintaining their own little spaces and working together in a thriving community. Which another step south has a small set of fishing boats, including diagonal ones, to show just how the folks spend their time during the day, with a little bonus of a super small hamlet here for the fishermen to live in and easily get to their boats. With all of the farmland around here, I thought including a malt house as a unique structure could be a fun way to just change up from the regular farmhouses. And of course, crop rotation is a thing IRL, so in the corner I have a fallow field that is being left to rest and revitalize the soils naturally, which is probably done under recommendation of the herbalist living on the edge of the forest, growing quite a few random things in the front of their hut. Then we have a goat herder living here among the farmland. Maybe the goats are employed to tame back the weeds growing along the edge of the fields, But the most important building here is this farmhouse, which in the basement houses a farm that I use far too often, my fern farm. I love using ferns, but they suck to gather. So I set this up with dispensers to bone meal ferns for me. The larger ones, when harvested, get you 2 ferns. As we step back towards the city, along the river, I have quite a few water mills to help process all of the grains. This main river leads all the way to the ocean, but we'll get to that later. But for now, in the city, I wanted a huge harbor and to sell the idea that we need a ton of large ships to just bring everything to life. Inside of the city, we need to show the trade and variety of all the goods coming in. So first, I have a small fishmonger shop with the interior themed after the schoolhouse in Klaus. We also have multiple decorative warehouses along the harbor to show all of the goods being brought in, as they need to be dropped off somewhere before they can move throughout the rest of the city. And even a cave carved into the cliffside as a form of a natural cold storage for crops to be put in just to last a little bit longer. If that's not all up your alley, consider building a fountain. I tried making a pink pony on top of this one, which I thought was pretty cool, which sits in front of one of my favorite spots, the foliage market, a storage room I used to store all of the different types of plants and leaves I have, looking like you could come shop here in a market. Stepping behind it towards the back gate, I have a copper factory, which houses a very important facility underground for aging copper in bulk. I usually have this filled up with trapdoors and chains. Another factory idea to make a realistic place to get Minecraft blocks from is a brickery, a place where clay is melted in large kilns for bricks or pots, which you can even hide a clay farm inside to turn all of your dirt into clay and then cook those into bricks. My city definitely uses a lot of brick in building, as I wanted to avoid the gray palettes for main structures like this cathedral, which is set on a 45-degree angle here with a beautiful interior as a place to worship a very important part of the world lore. The giant tree you definitely haven't noticed at all in the background that is towering over the city of Path. Another tiny project would be to change a biome or remove a biome. Like, this entire space here is actually a snowy slopes mountain. Or for something slightly smaller, find all of the dogs and build a brewery or house for them to live in. Which, for a fun big pop of color, you can bone meal sunflowers and plant a super huge field really easily. Speaking of bone meal, if you have thousands, consider building a tree farm like this one to get all of the logs you could ever need. There are also some variants for 2x2 tree farms like dark oak and pale oak. If you've exhausted your ideas for your bases so far, consider building a fantasy area like I have a Dwarven city planned here behind the gatehouse, which one of the main buildings is a hall housing over 50 cleric villagers I can trade with for near unlimited redstone. I also did a lore by saying resin is actually an ore block. So I built this entire mine here with a completed interior going down on our minecart rail to a resin farm hidden underground. Another functional building here is the Dwarven Keep, which houses a rocket factory inside, so I can always have firework rockets ready to go to fly around with. Being a Dwarven area, I need all of the mines. So we have a copper mine over here that has a copper storage room inside, powered by a copper golem sorting system. If that wasn't enough copper for you, build a village for copper golems, like this little hamlet here that also has a spot for cold chickens to live. If you want more cold weather vibes, consider building a castle on a nearby mountain peak, or practice some redstone by making a 3x3 piston door. If you need another break from all of these things again, I recently tried building a solar punk themed village on an island that was a ton of fun to bring to life. Oceans also have a main attraction of guardian temples, so consider setting up a guardian farm and then transform the area around it. Now, if you need to blow something up after all of that sand and sponge placing, try making a castle, then use some TNT to blow holes into it to make it super ruined. And if you have a stony peak biome, you can easily turn this into a grass farm. If you've been obsessed with F1 in the last few years like I have, bring your favorite racetrack in-game as a horse racetrack. Complete with a redstone timing system, you can actually get your fastest splits. And if you want to really experience pain, this project is super fun. You should totally do it. Build a copper farm in the overworld. You can never get enough copper. I'm kind of ashamed to see that I left kelp in this farm after I built this thing years ago. How did I miss that for so long? I could go on and list off another 100 or so build projects from this world alone, as I've survived in this hardcore world for over 4 years, building up an entire fantasy world full of custom mountain ranges and multiple different civilizations I've featured in this video already, with so many more builds to come. If you would like to check this all out in person for yourself, I do have world downloads available for members and Patreon supporters. Consider joining my community. I really appreciate all your support, and with that, I'll catch y'all on the flip side.